because I can. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Reputized video. Cobra was directed by Geaorge P. Cosmatos, came out in 1986, and stars Sylvester Stallone, Brigitte Nielsen, and Thompson. And it follows Marion Cobretti, a tough-on-crime street cop who is assigned to protecting a witness against a murderous cult. Alright, starting off with the positive. The story was pretty decent. It was just about this cop protecting this witness against a bunch of bad guys. And there was plenty of action to be had. The story was straightforward and to the point. It wasn't nothing big, but it wasn't nothing little either. Growing up watching this film, I never considered it to be a slasher horror film. I don't know why. I guess it's because I've grown up watching Rambo. And maybe a little bit of Rocky, but more Rambo than anything else. And I guess that's why I never considered it a horror movie. Until I bought the Blu-ray, the collector's edition from Scream Factory. And I started looking at all the features. And then I started watching the movie even more. And yeah, it was a decent enough of slasher elements in there. And I don't know why I never caught up on as much as a fan of slasher movies I am. And I thought that gave the movie a really good edge. It had the right amount of action. It had the right amount of horror elements. The cinematography and lighting was done just well. It was lit up just perfectly. It had that grindy feel, but at the same time, you knew when it was going to transition into an action scene as opposed to horror, which leads me into the music, the score. And the horror parts of this film, you could tell that somebody was getting ready to get killed in the most gruesome way, in a knifey way. And in the action scenes, it's like a mixture of what you would find in a horror movie along with an action film. But it was like mostly, especially by the third act, there's like mostly a horror element to the score, but it fit in real nicely. Sylvester Levay did a really good job on that. Alright, let's talk about Stallone's character, Marion Cobretti. Most action heroes, especially around that time, and even a little now, was named John. And I think that's because John Wayne, one of the most iconic actors to ever shine the big screen, has had a lot of influence on that. But they chose to go with a much less lighter touch for a name. And it's kind of weird, but at the same time, okay, it's something original. Because at this time, when this film came out, Stallone was still working on the Rambo films. And I believe that at the time of this release, it had been a year prior to that is when Rambo First Blood Part 2 came out, which was also directed by the same director, Geaorge P. Cosmatos. But this character, Cobra, I gotta be honest, and I know most people might not agree with me, but I felt like he was a mixture between the Terminator and Rambo.
Come on, man. I got a bomb here. I'll kill her. I'll blow this whole place up.
Hey, just relax, amigo. You want to talk? We'll talk. I'm a sucker for good conversation.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing, although I do have complaints about some of the characters. I'll get to that later. His character was really good.
Your disease, and I'm the cure.
And the chemistry between him and the female witness, which I believe that the actor that played the female witness in this, Brigitte Nielsen, was actually married to Stallone there for a short time around that time. But it didn't last long. But the chemistry between them two, it was okay. But it's just Stallone's character had so much mystery to him that you couldn't really get into their chemistry that much, which leads me right into the negatives. Character development. There wasn't that much there. And as far as the cult is concerned, you don't really get to find out what their actual goal is, what their reasoning behind all this is. The most you get out of it is, okay, they're the way of the new world. They gotta kill the weak so that the strong can survive.
We are the hunters. We kill the weak so the strong survive. You can't stop the new world. Your filthy society will never get rid of people like us. It's breeding them. We are the future!
I'm not saying you always got to be a reason to be crazy, but for a film like this, put something in there. Something more concise as to why they were doing what they were doing. And like most of the other characters, I just couldn't get into them. They're mindless. They had no backstory. It's like when they went into the production of this film, they didn't think at all of any of the characters. They just threw them in and they just decided to make a movie for the sake of it. And I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but the film, the original cut was over 2 hours long. And for tone and pacing, and in order for them to avoid the X rating, they had to make a lot of cuts, which reduced it down to 1 hour and 27 minutes. Now, again, I don't know if they filmed any character development or made any progress with that with the original cut, but if they had, then that was a really poor move to be making all those cuts in the first place. Again, I don't know. In all my research, I have not found a single evidence that they even considered any character development in any cuts, which was sort of disappointing, but again, it made up for it with all the action and horror elements. And the last thing I want to harp about, the whole tapping of the weapons thing. I have no idea where that came from. As far as I can tell, in those scenes, even though they're like maybe 5-second shots, they're like men with suits. And it just doesn't seem like they were even a part of the cult at all. A part of anything that was happening with them. Like with them trying to track down Stallone's character in The Witness and all that. It just doesn't seem like they were a part of that at all. So I really didn't understand that. I guess that was their like signature of what that cult was about. And even though it showed Brian Thompson, the leader, the Night Slasher, which is what he was called, following them at the beginning and doing that with them, the rest of the film, it just didn't seem necessary. Yeah, I could have probably stood it like at the beginning when Brian Thompson was in the picture. It just didn't seem necessary. And speaking of Brian Thompson, I should have put this in the positives, so forgive me guys. I actually did like his character. They gave a more interesting way for him to be mysterious, and it just made more sense to me that a character like that would be mysterious than anybody else. And the way Brian Thompson was in this film, he was pretty menacing.
You won't do it, pig. You won't shoot. Murder is against the law. You have to take me in. If you can.
That's not a guy I would want to freak with. That's for sure. This makes Brian Thompson's second film, I believe. The first one being that little cameo he made in the first Terminator where he got punched in the gut by the Terminator. This makes, I believe, his first full-length film where they actually cast him as a titular part. And I thought he did a pretty good job. Cobra is still one of my favorite Sylvester Stallone movies. I like Sylvester Stallone. He's one of those classic action heroes of the 80s up to the 2000s. And like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he is really awesome. I think he's a really good actor. Cobra gets a B-. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, get reputized, share. What did you think of Cobra? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think. Stay tuned for more videos and reviews coming soon. Peace the rip out.